mortals, Discordian Kitty here, and this is not a video I want to be doing. I'm a woman online. I've had my fair share of abuse. I've lived through getting on the bad side of Gamergate, of the fans of a certain unwashed streamer, and of South African white nationalists. None of it was fun, and it's the sort of attention I try to actively avoid these days. I'm also a growing channel and would quite like not to find myself blacklisted. I mean, you know, any more than I may already be. What I really want to do is talk about player housing and law in World of Warcraft. And after this video, I intend to go right back to exactly that. But I am also me, which means I'm incapable of seeing this sort of thing without talking about it. I can't ignore it. I'm sorry. So this isn't a video that I want to do. And it's not something you can expect from me often, but it's a subject I think is important and should be spoken about. So here it is. Jeffrey Epstein and World of Warcraft. A quick disclaimer, this video is going to include upsetting subjects including mention of child sexual exploitation, as well as strong language, for obvious reasons. If you have been online at all recently, actually scratch that. If you have existed on Earth at any recent time, you may have heard a bit about Jeffrey Epstein. Human trafficker to the stars, infamous for his island where he hosted the world's rich and powerful as they preyed on the world's young and powerless. You should know that the most recent file dump of Epstein files contains, well, shocking allegations is the mildest way to put it. I believe the technical term is mad shit. There was also a situation where some files were released and then removed and then released again. A lot of talk about how just because there are horrific, numerous, and highly specific allegations against someone, that doesn't make them true, which is fair enough. But isn't it also amazing how every single person who knew Epstein and liked Epstein and partied with Epstein all the time and spoke openly about how Epstein was their favorite person and very best friend in all the world, who also didn't know anything at all about the crimes? Remarkable. There have never been so many innocent rich people gathered in one place, quite like the ones found on Epstein's mailing list. But my point is, we're already talking about an extremely confusing, highly emotionally and politically charged and very difficult to grasp situation, where at any given point it's hard to know what is true and what isn't, with some of the most famous and powerful and politically influential people in the world tied to some of the most deeply concerning stories that you can possibly imagine. And we have to sort of try to balance not becoming completely tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorists with the knowledge that there absolutely are a lot of very important and powerful people with a vested interest in keeping their involvement with Epstein either hidden completely or as downplayed as possible. It's a lot to try to wrap our heads around. And I don't want to pretend to be some sort of expert on Epstein or politics here, but World of Warcraft is indeed in the files in a not insignificant way, so much so that I think we as a community need to be aware of it. We shouldn't shy away from this. And yes, a lot of the stuff is from long ago, but I still think it's important to know about it because some of it can't help but have lingering effects. So, let's begin with the email that Jeffrey Epstein sent in May 2013 to Bobby Kotick, who was the CEO of Activision Blizzard at the time. Kotick is mentioned several times in the files, but this one email in particular is where they talk games. At this stage, Epstein had already been under investigation for the sexual abuse of teenage girls and had been convicted of solicitation of prostitution with a minor in 2008. So he was already a known and convicted sex offender. So with all that in mind, this is the email that Kotick received. Play Medal of Honor or Call of Duty and you will learn war history. Here's what I've been thinking. Video games are already great at teaching. If they don't assess your level and put an appropriate challenge right in front of you, the game fails. Challenge too hard and you get frustrated and quit playing. Too easy and the game is no fun. That is exactly what a good teacher or tutor would do. Fundamentally, the thing that works is a 1-to-1 student-teacher ratio. Even if you have a shitty teacher or tutor, you will learn a lot because that person gets to know you and challenges you at your level. That doesn't scale, but computers do. so we have to use computers to replace teachers, or at least augment them. Today's video games don't try to teach stuff we care about. Well, except for shooting bad guys. The best scheme I've come up with so far is to use X Prize or something like it to co-opt the existing video game industry. Give out a prize to the game that comes up with the best way of teaching kids anything from a normal school curriculum. Let them pick whatever they want to teach, any grade level, and just incorporate it into their product. That's the way to get the most brains and the most users for the least money. You want to skip convincing educators and parents about this stuff and just go straight for the kids. Imagine you are looking at a door in a video game. It has some squiggly symbols printed on it. Little munchkins walk up to the door and say "Konnichiwa." The door opens and you are greeted by a hot princess with big tits and a thong. The door closes in your face. You are going to fucking learn to read and pronounce kanji. Unleash that on 5th grade boys, and the next thing you know, you'll have an entire generation of bilingual kids speaking Japanese to each other behind the backs of their parents and teachers. Edutainment is for pussies. It doesn't work. Once kids catch on that you're trying to teach them something, they shut down. We have to keep the boobs and guns and profit. You see how much money video games are making these days? Fuck educational reform. We need educational subversion. Epstein forwarded this rant to Kotick, asking for his thoughts. Kotick's reply: X Prize is a good idea, but key is real-world rewards. Learn to read, earn cell phone minutes, iPhone credits, virtual items in games. Epstein forwarded this to another friend, Pablo Solman, who may be the one who wrote the original rant. This man is apparently a futurist, but that's just not a term I intend to acknowledge or use. He's involved in cryptocurrency, AI, and he's a venture capitalist. So, take that information how you will. Pablos replied, I'm all for indoctrinating kids into an economy. You've got to love how his example for real-world rewards is virtual items in games. I have spoken before about the predatory and manipulative techniques that game companies knowingly use against their customers. This isn't a secret, but it remains one of those really important things to just always keep in mind. As I said, these emails were in May 2013. Call of Duty went on to introduce loot box style mechanics as early as August 2013. Too early, if we're being honest, to quite match the narrative that Epstein is the reason we got loot boxes in our games, but these emails do show what sorts of conversations Kotick was having and the sort of people he was having them with. As I said, Kotick is mentioned several times in the Epstein files. He met with Epstein often, introducing him to other people, and visited his house. As we can see, they discussed video games, with a special emphasis on how games can be used to influence children. And I want to dig into this a little more. Look at how they view and talk about these children. Little munchkins, 5th grade boys. So first of all the gamers in question are assumed to be boys. This is nothing new. Men and boys are often treated like the default. When a woman is mentioned, it is a hot princess with big tits and a thong. Putting aside the age-inappropriate sexualization of children being done in the emails of an infamous pedophile, hey, remember when Anita Sarkeesian said that a lot of video games portray women as prizes? Sexually objectified inanimate objects that exist to be nothing more than rewards for men and boys, teaching them to treat women and girls as less than human. Remember the backlash she got? All of that was going on around the time these sorts of emails were being sent between the heads of the gaming industry and the world's most famous sex trafficking pedophile. Today's video games don't try to teach stuff we care about, well, except for shooting bad guys. We have to keep the boobs and guns and profit. I'm all for indoctrinating kids into an economy. And here's the end game. The same boys who were super excited to get their hot princess with big tits weren't ever being offered this by some sort of altruistic do-gooders who just wanted to see more boys learn kanji. It was always about exploitation. The stuff they care about teaching is shooting people, and it's not uncommon for Call of Duty to be described as military propaganda and being indoctrinated into the economy with loot boxes. And is so often the case when it comes to gaming. This exploitation goes hand in hand with misogyny, using exploited girls to control and exploit boys. After all, one way to really rile up gamers is to have someone to threaten to take their big tits in a thong princess away, or worse, suggest they treat her like a person. In a 2016 email exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and a core Bitcoin developer, Jeremy Rubin, The two discussed using games to either prove the inferiority of women and therefore roll back gender reforms, or else find a way to get more value out of female employees. Would be an interesting to attempt to make an intellectually stimulating game where women outperform men, unless women are inherently inferior to the maximally talented men at all tasks. Winky emoticon. In any case, it's a fun experiment. If you fail to make such a game, you provide evidence of universal inferiority, which would inform you, society, to not invest in gender diversity as much. If you make one, then you'd probably learn more about how to get value out of female employees. Epstein's reply begins, "Motherhood game? And honestly, I really believe women were robbed when we weren't allowed to all line up and punch him in the face, but moving along. See how these options work. It's either fully dismissing an entire group of people as inherently inferior, or at the very best, maximizing their value as workers. And I promise you, this doesn't stop with women. At the end of the day, as far as these people are concerned, our entire existence, our only purpose in life, is to create profit for them. But I realize I'm a woman, so by saying any of this, I'm just being one of those evil feminists who want to take away your boobs and your guns and any way you like loot boxes. Don't I understand video games need to make a profit? Stupid bitch. And so let's move on to the next major reason why the Epstein files are weirdly tied to World of Warcraft. Steve Bannon. You might know Steve Bannon from his time as a major leader at Breitbart News, or his time as a member of Trump's first administration. Or you might simply know him, not personally or by name, but simply as one of the guys who actively made World of Warcraft worse. For a time, Bannon was the CEO of a company called IGE, Internet Gaming Entertainment, that traded in virtual currency. It was a gold farming company. Bannon was a World of Warcraft gold seller. Thanks to his experience with World of Warcraft, Bannon, like Epstein, recognized the potential of using video games to influence society. I knew Bannon from his influential role in Gamergate. The following Bannon quotes are from a USA Today article that was published in 2017. These guys, these rootless white males, have monster power. It was the pre-Reddit. It's the same guys on Thoughtbot who were later on Reddit. You can activate that army. They come in through Gamergate or whatever, and then get turned onto politics and Trump. Oh yeah, and remember how I just pointed out Anita Sarkeesian was highlighting some of the exact misogyny we saw in Epstein's view on video games? And remember how the backlash against her played a major role in Gamergate, the movement that was partially aided and encouraged by Steve Bannon. I swear to God, 2014 never ended. Let me be clear. Gamergate was always a misogynistic hate campaign, and don't try come into my comments with revisionist nonsense trying to rewrite history. I lived through it. I was the target of it. I remember it with crystal clarity. But it was also always a political movement being pushed using games, an example of intentional social engineering by the wealthy and powerful. These were always the people shoving politics into our video games. Video games did not suddenly become like this coincidentally. People like Kotick and Bannon and Epstein had recognized the potential in gaming and were purposefully using that potential for their own agendas. Whether those agendas were looting you for everything you've got or rolling back women's rights, and writing little emails to each other boasting about it. 2017 was the same year that saw the start of the Me Too movement, also known as Time's Up. And you can believe neither Bannon nor Epstein were a fan. By 2018, these two were discussing ways to damage the movement. In an email exchange about cryptocurrency, Epstein asked Bannon, should it have a Christian component? Tithe? If you form a church, you may be able to tell Mueller you have confession privilege. Bannon replied, populist/nationalist first. Conservative Christians, Catholic/evangelical, next. Reverse Alabama. This coalition staves off Time's Up for next decade plus. So to recap, the plan was to fund populist and nationalist movements with a dash of conservative Christian influence in order to stave off Me Too, or Time's Up, for at least the next decade. This is intentional social engineering. Also, people like Epstein could avoid facing anything resembling a consequence for their sex crimes, and make lots and lots of money, of course. Oh, and hey, Christians, you like seeing yourselves listed this way? To be used knowingly by people who don't even believe in your God? Because they know you are capable of being a threat to women's rights? That's the reputation you have? You good with this? There's more. Epstein met 4chan creator Christopher Poole, or Moot, back in 2011. Literally the next day, Moot created the new board on 4chan, Politically Incorrect, or POL, a board that would become the staging ground for things like Gamergate and online support for Trump. Epstein and Bannon also seem to have worked hard on influencing a particular political movement in Europe, and discussed this quite a bit in 2018. In an email exchange titled "The Most Powerful Read Dangerous US Group Much Stronger Than Military," Epstein and Bannon chat about the hackers they want to work with. In one of the Epstein files, a text exchange, Bannon boasts about how much political influence he has, naming major players in Europe politics like Italy's Matteo Salvini, Germany's AfD, Hungary's Viktor Orban, and of course, Britain's Nigel Farage. I am now an advisor to Front, Salvini, the Leagues, AfD, Swiss Peoples, Orban, Land and Freedom, Farage. Next May is European Parliament elections. We can go from 92 seats to 200, shut down any crypto legislation or anything else we want. I'm not even going to go into all of Epstein's links with Peter Thiel, Lord Peter Mandelson, Brexit. Suffice to say, America isn't the only country whose political elite seem to have had some serious ties to this man, to the point where it really does seem like he was one of the biggest influences that has shaped the world around us today. But this video is about World of Warcraft. So what does this mean for us and our game? Obviously, Kotick is no longer at Blizzard, and a lot has happened since these emails. Bannon's connections to World of Warcraft have always been parasitic at best. He views the game as something to be exploited and used, but it's also only ever been one of his many interests, and a pretty minor one at that. Blizzard generally, and World of Warcraft in particular, have gone through some major restructuring and changes in both leadership and approach. Still, I can't help but feel like the sort of social engineering that we're seeing described in these files lingers in World of Warcraft. I mean, it lingers everywhere, all over the world, and not just in gaming. But I want to focus on this game because that's where my attention is right now. For a very long time, it's been pretty common to just accept things like trolling and harassment in gaming. I can tell you, as a woman in games, that it's pretty common for women to avoid voice comms or hide any indication that might actually identify their gender. For a long time, I was part of a female-only World of Warcraft community that I ended up leaving because every time a woman opened up about misogynistic harassment she had experienced in-game, her replies would be flooded by other women telling her she should just have not revealed she was a woman. As if the misogyny is something default, something normal that we need to accept. But I don't believe that at all. In fact, the point that I would like to make with this video is it's not actually normal for gaming communities to be flooded with vile abuse. It's not normal to not be able to avoid extremist politics being shoved in your face whenever you make the mistake of reading trade chat. This sort of thing happens because it serves the interests of an extremely wealthy and powerful political class who have gone out of their way to push the narratives that most benefit them. Because let's be clear, they don't care about whatever it is they're selling to convince people to be nationalists. They don't care about Jesus or the church. They don't even care about making sure you never lose your access to the hot princess in a thong. I promise you they don't care about the Alliance or the Horde, or whether or not the game respects its own law or is named Warcraft or not. All they care about is their own interests. All they want to do is exploit you, even if you're not a young woman, because it's not even just about sex. It's about control and exploitation, teaching kids to give them money. If you're not a woman, well, you're still a worker. One of the things we've seen in adjacent movements that are the result of these sorts of emails is the fashion to refer to people as NPCs. But that's how they see all of us. They're the only real people. This world exists for them. We're the NPCs who exist to serve them. They literally sit around discussing how they plan to program us. And I just feel like it's important for us to remember that, and that our best defense against all this vile stuff that isn't normal is to just be normal. Every time I've met World of Warcraft players in real life, it has been nothing but a wholesome, welcoming, and uplifting experience. I feel like this is the secret weapon against so much inhumanity, to hold on to our humanity, our empathy, our compassion, our connections. And yes, even if that means we usher in a new age of World of Warcraft. I'm sorry, I had to. If you enjoyed this video, well, that makes one of us, but I will be back to my usual housing and lore next week, and you should be able to find me streaming as I obsess over my house pretty soon. Thank you to my patrons, as always, and hopefully I will see you again soon.